All right, listen, man. Hey. Crazy Christian woman just left, so I don't have to deal with her. She's a real nut job, but I guess religion is all she has. Never a dull moment in San Francisco. Always something going on here. We get to start a new story. Let me put on my glasses as I waste your valuable time. I don't care. Facts concerning the late Arthur Jermyn and his family. I'm so uncomfortable with Jermyn. How do you say that? Jermyn? Jermyn? I guess it's Jermyn. Jermyn. This story, written in the latter half of 1920, is one of the most effective of Lovecraft's early macabre tales. Its powerful opening paragraph anticipates the opening of The Call of Cthulhu. It is one of Lovecraft's first tales of hereditary degeneration. The suggestion that the protagonist is directly descended from a Darwinian beast. The full title of the story has rarely been used aside from its first appearance in the Wolverine, March and June 1921. Lovecraft was mortified when the story appeared in Weird Tales, April 1924, as The White Ape. As he remarked in a letter, "If I ever entitled a story The White Ape, there would be no ape in it." Yeah. H.P. Lovecraft is the sensitive type, but The White Ape is a terrible title. They made a movie called The White Ape in the late 20s or 30s. It's horrible, except for the cute girl who kind of undresses. But The White Ape is a guy in a gorilla costume. Life is a hideous thing, and from the background behind what we know of it peer demoniacal hints of truth, which make it sometimes 1,000-fold more hideous. Science already oppressive with its shocking revelations. Yeah, I'm sure Lovecraft would be horrified at me reading his stories too. Will perhaps be the ultimate exterminator of our human species, if separate species we be. For its reserve of unguessed horrors could never be borne by mortal brains if loosed upon the world. If we knew what we are, we should do as Sir Arthur Jermyn did. And Arthur Jermyn soaked himself in oil and set fire to his clothing one night. What a guy. No one placed the charred fragments in an urn or set a memorial to him who had been, for certain papers and a certain boxed object were found, which made men wish to forget. Some who knew him do not admit that he ever existed. Arthur Jermyn, I think that's how they pronounce it in other audiobooks. Arthur Jermyn, that's how I'll do it. Arthur Jermyn went out on the moor and burned himself after seeing the boxed object, which had come from Africa. It was this object, and not his peculiar personal appearance, which made him end his life. Many would have disliked to live if possessed of the peculiar features of Arthur Jermyn, but he had been a poet and scholar and had not minded. Learning was in his blood, for his great-grandfather, Sir Robert Jermyn, B.T., whatever the hell that is, had been an anthropologist of note, whilst his great-great-great-grandfather, Sir Wade Jermyn, was one of the earliest explorers of the Congo region and had written eruditely of its tribes, animals, and supposed antiquities. Indeed, old Sir Wade had possessed an intellectual zeal amounting almost to a mania. His bizarre conjectures on a prehistoric white Congolese civilization earning him much ridicule when his book Observations on the Several Parts of Africa was published. In 1765, this fearless explorer had been placed in a madhouse at Huntington. I find that sentence really funny. Placed in a madhouse. Madness was in all the Jermyns, and people were glad there were not many of them. The line put forth no branches, and Arthur was the last of it. If he had not been, one cannot say what he would have done when the object came. Italicized. The Jermyns never seemed to look quite right. Something was amiss, though Arthur was the worst, and the old family portraits in Jermyn House showed fine faces enough before Sir Wade's time. Certainly the madness began with Sir Wade, whose wild stories of Africa were at once the delight and terror of his few friends. It showed in his collection of trophies and specimens, which were not such as a normal man would accumulate and preserve, and appeared strikingly in the oriental seclusion in which he kept his wife. Now, you can never call someone from Asia an oriental. That refers to furniture. The oriental seclusion, that means it must be some kind of wood structure from Asia that he keeps his wife in. Don't know. The latter, he had said, was the daughter of a Portuguese trader whom he had met in Africa and did not like English ways. She, with an infant son born in Africa, had accompanied him back for the second and longest of his trips, and had gone with him on the third and last, never returning. No one had ever seen her closely, not even the servants, for her disposition had been violent and singular. During her brief stay at Jermyn House, she occupied a remote wing, and was waited on by her husband alone. Sir Wade was, indeed, most peculiar in his solicitude for his family, for when he returned to Africa, he would permit no one to care for his young son, save a loathsome black woman from Guinea. Upon coming back, after the death of Lady Jermyn, he himself assumed complete care of the boy. Well, that's it for today. That was fun, actually.